start this evening's meeting first with an introduction of board members, and we do. Make the public aware that tonight's case B09-019, which is the Bethany Bend Road Board of Education, will be deferred tonight. So if there's any public here waiting for that case, it will be deferred to the February meeting. That said, our next order of business is elections for chair and vice chair. And I'd like to take motions for start with chair.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to nominate Dr. Gary Willis.
We have a second.
I'll second.
I'd move to nominate Todd Chernick.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? Okay. Gary, Dr. Willis, would you like to make any comments?
I'll make this real quick. If elected, I promise to give 110% to the city and 110% to the citizens of Milton.
Very good. And I don't have any further comments to add myself. So with that, we'll go in order of how nominations were made. Those in favor of Dr. Willis, please raise your right hand. And those against? Okay. With that, the motion carries for Dr. Willis to be our new chair. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Second order of business is to take nominations for vice chair. And as soon as we do that, Dr. Willis will take over the meeting.
I'd like to nominate Todd Chernick for vice chair.
Second.
I'll speak. I think Todd's done an excellent job thus far. He's very organized and on top of it, and I think he'd do well to carry on.
Are there any other nominations?
I'd like to make a motion for Marsha Parson to be our vice chair.
A second.
Okay. Any discussion? Comments? Okay. With that, we'll take a vote, also in the same order that the nominations were made. Those in favor of Todd Chernick for vice chair, please raise your right hand. Those in favor are, I should say, in favor for Marsha Parsons for vice chair, please raise your right hand. Okay, the motion carries for Marsha Parsons as vice chair. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll do a quick seat shuffle here.
Do we have to move? Is this?
Okay.
The chairman should
Yeah.
run the meeting. You can run it from there.
Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah. You can run
Okay.
it from there.
I mean,
That's fine.
there's no need that we all jump up and move seats.
And Dr. Willis, I did not read our Board of Zoning Appeals criteria into the record. If you don't have that,
I have that. I'll be more than happy to. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-legal board composed of resident volunteers of the City of Milton. The board is charged with hearing requests for variances from the standards of the zoning ordinance and appeals of administrative determinations. With regard to decisions on primary variances, the board's basis for decision is provided by 4 considerations. A, relief if granted would not obtain the spirit or intent of the ordinance, and B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant. And C, relief if granted would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good in surrounding properties. And D, that the public safety, health, and welfare are secured and substantial justice is done. In addition, a sign variance may only be approved under the following circumstance. where existing foliage or structures bring about a hardship whereby a sign meeting minimum letter size, square footage, and height requirements cannot be read from an adjoining public road. Angela, did everybody get the December meeting minutes?
I believe so.
Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve minutes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All are in favor of approval of December meeting minutes, please raise your right hand. All opposed? Let it be known that it passed unanimously.
One abstention.
Yeah.
One abstention, since she wasn't here. Angela, will you present V09-017, please?
Certainly. Petition number V09017, 5304 Windward Parkway. The requested variances are as follows. Two parts: to allow light poles to exceed the maximum allowable pole height, and to allow shoebox-style lighting fixtures. The site is a strip commercial center located in the Highway 9 overlay. The property consists of 2.324 acres. It is located on the site of the former Fire Brazil restaurant. The applicant, Robert Forrest of Real Development Windward, manages the commercial center, Stonewalk at Windward. Currently, the only tenant open is Panera Bread Company. 2 other tenants are preparing to open. Georgia Power approved the proposed site lighting plan for the new development in May of 2008. This proposal included 8 35-foot dark bronze square steel poles mounted on 18-inch round concrete bases and 9 1,000-watt halide copper dark bronze flat glass Galleria-style shoebox fixtures. The land disturbance permit for this project was approved by the City of Milton in September of 2008. The LDP did not include a site lighting plan. On September 24, 2008, city staff and the contractor held a pre-construction meeting as required prior to the start of construction activities. Staff noted that the location of the light poles was not shown on the plans and that this would need to be addressed prior to installation. Construction commenced, but the project sat idle for several months throughout the summer. During a site visit in the early summer of 2009, city arborist Mark Law observed that the light poles were being placed in the landscape islands and the bases had already been installed at this time. He informed the contractor that this was unacceptable as the poles would be detrimental to the trees. After meeting with staff on August 31, 2009, Jorge Robledo sent a follow-up email to city staff acknowledging that the site lights were too tall and that the shoebox fixtures were unacceptable. He acknowledged that they would need to be replaced or that a variance would need to be obtained. In November of 2009, the contractor inquired about obtaining a certificate of occupancy so that one of the tenants could open. On November 25th, Jimmy Sanders emailed Chuck Beatty informing him of the outstanding issues. Jimmy reminded Mr. Beatty that a variance application would have to be submitted for the light poles before the CO could be issued. City of Milton staff informed the general contractor that they would not be able to reuse the lights used on the site previously. Article 12G46 states that the entire site must be brought into conformance with this article should a renovation, upgrade, or addition occur that would require a land disturbance permit. The contractor originally stated that the original fixtures were to be reused. At the January 5th Design Review Board meeting, he stated that new fixtures were installed. Staff informed the contractor on several occasions that once the fixtures came down, they would have to conform with the current ordinance. Article 12G4D states that the maximum mounting height for a pole is 28 feet. According to the order approved by Georgia Power, the height of the poles is 35 feet. Article 12G4D 8 and 9 states that lights should be architecturally decorative with a historic style. Shoebox, Cobra lighting fixtures, neon lighting are prohibited. The fixtures currently installed are of the shoebox style. At the January 5th DRB meeting, the board stated that the light poles should match Highway 9 overlay requirements. Additional department comments. The staff held a focus meeting on January 4th, 2009, at which the following comments were provided. Building plan review. The contractor has outstanding issues preventing issuance of permanent certificate of occupancy. Site plan review, no issues. Arborist, he just restated that he informed the contractor early in the summer of 2009 that the height, type, and location of the fixtures was unacceptable. The fixtures as currently located should not interfere with the trees. DOT stormwater, no issues. The applicant has indicated a justification for variance based on the following factors. A, relief if granted would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance. B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant. C, relief if granted would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good and surrounding properties. D, that the public safety, health, and welfare are secured and that substantial justice is done. The applicant states the following. Our request would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance, nor would it cause a substantial detriment to the public good of the surrounding properties, as the lights currently in place are in keeping with those currently found in areas surrounding the Stonewalk at Windward development. Changing lights out at this point in the project would be cost prohibitive and would cause severe delay. Our estimate on cost to replace the lights is around $24,494 and will cause a delay of approximately 12 weeks. As you may be aware, we have tenants in place looking to open immediately. Recommended conditions. Should the board choose to approve the application, staff recommends the following conditions. That the applicant shall meet all outstanding building, site, and zoning requirements prior to the issuance of the permanent certificate of occupancy. And this concludes the staff presentation.
Does the board have any questions for staff?
I had one question. You mentioned there was a site visit in summer of 2009 by Mark Law, and that his note was that the poles would be detrimental to the trees that are being installed. Was that the only site visit prior to this request for a CO
No.
by staff?
No.
Were there any other comments related to the poles where they would have been forewarned?
I haven't seen all of the site inspection sheets, but it was something that they would talk about when they went out there. That's the only one that they made me aware of.
Okay. His comment was
Specifically.
specific to the
Yes.
intersection of the tree and the light pole. Okay.
Right, because that's what he was looking at.
Okay.
I've got a couple questions. Number one, who took out the permit for this project?
I'd have to pull the plans to find the exact, let's see if it's on the Georgia Power permit. I think it was under the name of Real Development Windward. That's the name on the Georgia Power application.
And on the pre-construction meeting, was the owner or the person who took out the application at the meeting?
I was not in that meeting, but I don't believe so. I think the general contractor was there along with staff and general contractor's staff.
Does anybody know whether it was in the general contractor's contract for lighting, or was it excluded from their contract?
I have not seen their contract, but I'm assuming since they're in charge of
Then
construction,
anybody
they're in charge of everything.
And it says Jimmy Sander emailed Chuck Beatty to inform the outstanding issue. I don't understand who Chuck Beatty is, so I'm just trying to make sure I follow the.
He is one of the contractors. He's the GC.
But that's not the owner.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Angela? At what point, after the LDP, do they bring in a lighting plan for the city staff to review, or when does that happen, or is supposed to happen?
Typically, the LDP is included with the LDP. I believe we issued it conditionally.
The lighting plan was
We
issued?
issued the LDP conditionally, expecting that we allowed them, we didn't want to hold up the permit
Uh-huh.
just for the lighting plan.
Okay.
But for whatever reason, it never came back in. And, you know, we knew the lights were up.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the staff? Will the applicant please step forward and present? And if you would also give your name and address, we would appreciate that as well.
I'm gonna pull this out. I'm too tall for this thing. Robert Forrest, 62 Roswell Street, Alpharetta, with Real Development Windward. I'm the owner and developer of the property, and the first question I'll answer real quick was the Fall Creek Construction was hired as a general contractor, and the names you see in there, the George and Chuck work for them. So that's who did a lot of this. You'll see in your packet, I'm going to kind of answer questions because they've, you know, you guys have already read this and all that, but kind of answer some of the questions I've already heard and then kind of give you our 2 cents of it from our standpoint. If you look back in there, you'll see back in May, May is when, Georgia Power, we outsource the lights. So, as an owner, we can buy poles and get all into it and all of that stuff, or we can source it out. And all of our retail centers everywhere in this area, which is the only place we build, is in Alpharetta, Milton, and Forsyth County. We source everything through Georgia Power, even on Sony EMC stuff, because they typically do a great job. As you can see from the attachments in the packet, back in May, we had talked to Georgia Power because in we were already in the process of going through with the engineers to get a land disturbance permit, and part of that is site lighting plan and all that, and that's what Georgia Power does. So I'm not sure where it might have gotten lost, but I'd be amazed if they didn't submit one and someone must have seen it before. They just don't go put light poles in typically, so they do lights, they do the light plan and all of that themselves, and then they come in and as a contractor put it in and all that, and they generally would get whatever poles are needed, that are out there. And I'm sure they've done some other ones in Milton. Georgia Power probably does most of them, if not all of them. So, and I've talked to William Kennedy, who represents Georgia Power with us, and he's talked to, before they go out and give us a quote, he checked with the city, and he's even talked to the gentleman today, and it's, I'll have to see if in my notes here if I've got his name, but they kind of check base. And then, again, this is in May of 08, I guess it was. We signed a contract in June 08 with Georgia Power to provide that, and then that's when they would have done the site lighting plan and all that. And then you can see subsequent to that in September, we actually got issued a land disturbance permit. So we had done our part, we had thought at that point, and Georgia Power is in charge of lights, and we've got an LDP. We should be okay on all that. Fall Creek's in charge of building the building, and there were some delays there because Fall Creek had issues with the economy and whatnot, and put the project behind. It sat there dormant for about 120 days while they were working through their issues, and we kind of got stuck in the middle of that. And then you could see something was brought up in the summer, but it was more of the location of the lights, not the lights themselves. And they were out there putting them out. I think they'd already put them up at that point when the arborist had come out and made note. And so we really didn't know anything at all was going on until Fall Creek brought something up, getting close to getting a CO and said, oh, the light poles are wrong. And, at this point, they've been there since, I guess, early summer, so they've already been out there a couple months. And then, we got into this, well, in order to get a CO, you got to get a variance or you got to do the new poles. We went back to Georgia Power since we have a contract with them to provide it, and basically it was, well, we put out there what we were, allowed to put out there or whatnot, and, if you want to redo them, they're going to make us pay for them. And, it's paying for something twice when you do something like that. And again, I don't know how it got where it is and all of that stuff. Again, these are, I can kind of piece it together, kind of like y'all can, looking at the packet that, it looks like it probably fell through the cracks somehow. So that's kind of the background around on that. the poles that are out there are described and all, I think you can see in the packet, and I've brought more pictures. Everything from Cracker Barrel, this is Cracker Barrel, and I'll turn these into you. This is everything from 400 all the way to Highway 9 I have pictures of. These are basically the same light poles everybody has had out there forever, and I could see why Georgia Power wouldn't know better either. And again, the first three here are the ones on our property. The rest of them are on the property on Home Depot's and the next developments down in that picture. And again, you all know Windward Parkway, so I don't want to have to go through each one of these, but I can give these to you guys if you want to pass them around or whatever. But again, I could see where Georgia Power and everybody else might have missed it. I think several people in the city probably missed it too, and at the end it got caught after the fact. And the reason for the variance is obviously to throw $25,000 out when we're about 700 in the hole already on the project. So another $25,000 just to change the poles out that would look different than everything else out there already. Would be harmful for us, and that I don't really think that they stand out any different. I mean, they match 100% of what's on both sides of the road, and the other side of Windward Parkway all the way down, and even portion of this side or the north side is all Alpharetta anyway. So they've got a different ordinance and all that, or don't have an ordinance per se to these. So. And I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all would have on it, but. I'm basically here to ask for a variance to allow what's been installed several months ago to remain.
Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Chairman?
Did the general contractor, Fall Creek, or yourself, Real Development, specify lighting to Georgia Power?
No. We basically say we need site lights and go provide them. I mean, that's how it's typically done. We don't usually specify them. If we were doing a big mixed-use development or something, we might have done that, but we don't do any type of lighting except what's on the building itself.
Okay, and who approved the lighting plan and quote contract that you were provided by Georgia Power?
Georgia Power provided the contract that you see there and the picture and all, and I guess in May and June to us, and then I signed off on the contract, at that point. That's June of 2008, I guess it was.
Did you bring a representative from Georgia Power with you?
William Kennedy be the Georgia Power guy. He's called up here today but he has a conflict. He had another meeting to go to, probably just like this one somewhere else. And he was already committed to go to that one, so I lost out.
Did he bring you any letter saying that he didn't check with the right agency, or that he's willing to take responsibility? And is there anything in their contract that says that they're responsible for getting approval through the jurisdiction, or are they incumbent upon you in that contract?
The contract's it's again, everything we've signed is in here, so there's not much to it. So, I mean, that would be open for interpretation, I guess. But he had said that he had talked to, and my notes, Rodney Motes is his site lighting contact. And that's who he would have checked with back in 2008, even talked to him today about it a little bit, but wasn't made aware at that point of anything. And, neither were we at any point either.
Now, did your general contractor speak with you about what was told at that initial meeting about site lighting?
No, not to my recollection at all. That was back in September of 2008, though. But I don't, anything that would have been brought up, if they would bring something up to us, they usually do it in writing, we would have something on it. But no, nothing about it.
And are your shops unoccupied until this issue gets resolved?
Yep. Yeah, we've been on hold. They allowed Panera Bread to go ahead and open, but Radio Shack, we were supposed to turn over. Radio Shack's on the left end cap. We were supposed to turn that over December 4th to them, and we can't do anything there. Next to that is Sarku Japan, which is the chain that's in the mall. It's got another location. Next to that's MidHelp Urgent Care. They're waiting on a permit. Everybody's permit's held up. They won't issue any permits for everybody to build out, and it's been like that since November. So.
I can't believe Georgia Power is such a big company they couldn't get somebody here to come with you to this meeting.
Yeah, I don't know if they thought it was that. I don't know. Maybe I'm too small. I don't know. Maybe it's not that big a deal for them, and they'll deal with me. But I'm not near as big as they are.
You
I
got
mean,
Mr. Kennedy's phone number?
I don't. I have his office number. I don't have a cell phone for him.
Okay.
Do you want me to give you his office?
No, I've got his number. I'm not going to call him, by the way. I'm just asking.
Well, it's okay. I talked to him a couple times getting ready for this, so.
Have you had any discussions with Georgia Power about taking the equipment back in trade rather than, you've given us a price of
That's the
total?
24.9 number. That quote in 12 weeks is there, and that's straight off of what they sent us.
That's trade.
That's the trade out.
And also, have you had any thoughts, because it seems like the city's issue also is the growth of the trees, doing any kind of timing on the lights to dim them after certain hours?
Yeah, they actually, I think at one point the arborist worked with I don't know if it was either the general contractor or Georgia Power at the point when he caught all that they moved some trees around to make sure it was okay. And if you look on the packet, I think the comment on the staff report that it was okay now, because they did shift some trees around to make sure that the trees wouldn't be in there. And again, that was in her report that she just read off on the last page, I think it is. Trying to look.
We're good with the location of the trees.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's we've addressed everything, and it says I think Miss Henderson's name was on there. There was a couple small things back on the 4th, and we've done everything except for the lights now. At this point, everything's finished.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for the applicant? Mr. Ricker?
I don't know if I'm going to be out of order or not asking for it, but could I get a copy of the contract with Georgia Power just to look at that? See if it mentions anything?
It should be in your packet.
It's noted in the packet as Georgia Power letter.
Yeah, that's the extent of their contract.
It's a letter, more than a contract.
No, but I mean, I normally, when I sign these for my retail centers, there's a good 4-page document that I sign. And,
Walter, you want the fine print? I'll put that in there.
Yeah, she has the copy of the contract.
yeah. I'm sorry. I just want to, if we're going to hang our hat on somebody or hang somebody, I want to just see what Lawyer Reeves is saying.
Yeah, I know. Usually I have no rights. You know how that goes.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I have a question. The total count, is it 8, 7, and a
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look, but yeah,
is it?
it says 9 total lights, total fixtures, but I don't know if that's
All right,
8 and 1 or
Yeah,
8 poles or 9 poles, and
poles and then dual.
yeah.
Have you explored what other fixtures they have to at least address that part of the issue?
This was the least expensive. We looked at some of the things I talked to William today about was, well, what if we made the pole shorter but kept the shoe boxes, or could we just leave the height there and change the other out? And at the end of the day, he said it wouldn't save a lot of money over the 20 whatever thousand. That was the cheapest thing he had to fall in compliance.
Into compliance?
Yeah, I mean I can go a lot more expensive, but that was the least he could find.
12 weeks, so that seems.
They don't stock them at Georgia Power. They have to order them from their supplier. And they have a contract evidently with one company. I don't know which one, Lithonia or whatever it is, one of the big ones, and they get all their stuff from it. So it's one they don't stock, so then they have to order it from those guys. And I said 12 weeks to order and put it in since it's not a stock item.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to open the floor for public comment. If there's anybody that would like to make a comment, please step forward and do so now. Okay, we'll close public comment. Does anyone have any questions for staff? At this time, would the applicant like to make any additional comment at all regarding?
There's nothing to rebut, so.
Okay.
But I am open for questions if you'll have any.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant? Okay, floor is open for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I move to deny this variance on the basis that I believe relief would offend the spirit and intent of the ordinance. The intent of the ordinance is to keep the pole heights at the height that it states, and we're trying to move away from shoebox style lighting in the city of Milton. So I just think that this is not in that spirit. I also don't see any extraordinary or exceptional situations in this case pertaining to the particular piece of property. I obviously have heard a lot of arguments regarding the situation, but I don't see anything about the particular piece of property that warrants hardship here. So I would move to deny on this basis.
Second.
This floor is open for discussion.
Yeah, part B was what hung me up, and you hit on a couple points I was going to make, but that last clause, not caused by the variance applicant. I think from what we've heard and what we've read, it seems like this is pretty much all self-imposed. A little bit of extra homework would have alleviated the problem, and I was hoping that there would be something that maybe the city could have done earlier on when they conducted these site visits would have stopped the problem too. But it's just gotten to this point, and I mean, it seems like a GC subcontractor issue to me. So I would support that denial of this variance request.
Mr. Reeker?
One of the problems I have is, of course, this is the owner who basically ordered the lights from a utility company, fairly large, reputable utility company that should know their business as far as what's allowed or not allowed. And basically, whether it's right or wrong, the owner depended on the contractor to, I guess, research the different ones. I could see how an error could be made very easily by looking around the surrounding area and seeing all the other light fixtures, and perhaps the presumption is that this isn't Milton, this is maybe Alpharetta or whatever, and making that error. It seems like, if we were looking at what's in keeping with the area, the keeping in the area is keeping it to the shadow box as the applicant mentioned. And at the same time, I think maybe the city also perhaps didn't, and I'm not, no disrespect to the city, but we've got to include whoever the owner is and whoever's being told to do things. We need to include them in the process and make sure that the communication is made loud and clear. No disrespect to Jimmy telling the contractor, and the contractor perhaps not relaying it to the owner, or the owner saying, well, I took care of that. I don't know what he's talking about. But this is a situation where we've now got somebody who's been suffering since December 4th with people occupying the structure. But I can understand where everybody kind of took hard feelings. I'm kind of excited that our arborists took it upon themselves to kind of rework the tree plan to kind of make things worked out. And that sounds like no matter what happened, whatever light got put in there, they're going to have to work with pole bases. In addition, I guess I'm also seeing that our code requires shorter pole bases, or shorter poles. So that's going to require possibly a different pole location in respect to where those poles get put. So in essence, they're going to have to relocate those bases possibly. I like to be a hard guy, but again, I'm just looking out there and seeing those existing lights and how much they're in keeping with the area. I think if you put something else in, that wouldn't be. I guess what I would almost say is, we'll let them keep it in for a period of 8 years. At the end of 8 years, they need to replace them. And they want to do it now or they want to do it later. I don't know what a life of a pole is, but I would say it's somewhere between the 8 to 12 years. and at the time that that life expires, that maybe they come in with the right type of pole, and by that time, everybody else is going to be changing out poles, and we'll keep in keeping with everybody. But I'm just brainstorming, I'm just throwing ideas out there. But I can understand what hardship this business is going through, especially in these economic times.
Mr. Chernick?
First, want to comment regarding this specific motion, and I also see it very similarly that we have 4 conditions that all variances need to meet. And Part A and Part B, this applicant is having difficulty meeting. I think what Walt was illustrating about this being in keeping with the surrounding areas satisfies Part C of the condition, and certainly Part D is also satisfied. So I think we're down to the fact that Part A and B are not currently being met. It seems as Mr. McCray has indicated, this is a subcontractor, general contractor issue. One question I have for our city attorney or for Angela is should we deny this? Is there a mechanism that we can provide for a temporary CO so that the existing and future tenants can start moving on their permits?
I think, well, we've already given them the option of posting a bond for the lights.
So is that what the city would prefer, that they can post a bond in order to issue permits for future construction?
We just need some kind of guarantee that it'll be taken care of.
And with the bond amount you want be to satisfy the bid of $24,000
I
and
would think
change?
so. But he wouldn't have to post that entire amount, but yeah.
What amount would the city like to see posted?
Or if they go through 10%, if they went through
The bond would typically be established for a certain amount and you pay, certain small amount, whatever you can negotiate to cover your obligation.
So with that, I'd like to make an amendment stating that the applicant shall be granted the ability to seek permits for build-out of the remaining parcels, as long as the applicant posts a bond satisfactory to cover the lighting, open lighting issue.
I would second that.
And before we make a vote on that, let me just ask one question. Go ahead.
I don't know that that's necessarily appropriate for the zoning condition for this board to authorize posting of a bond. The city staff can, if it's provided by the code, they can take that approach, and I think take into advisement what your comments are. Because I know that the board is authorized to amend the bond. Certainly wasn't.
I'd like to withdraw my second based on what I've heard.
Then I'll withdraw my amendment, so the city understands where this board's leaning.
And then I just have one question for staff. If anybody does ever have to get a bond through the city of Alpharetta, do you have bond companies that you can send them to? Because I was told one time I had to get a bond through the city of Alpharetta, and when you're a small business person, there is nobody out there that you can get a bond from no matter what.
We have a couple contacts.
Okay. I was going to say.
In the city of Milton.
Yeah.
Well, but this had to mean Alpharetta. I was just saying for the city here, yeah. Okay, so is there any other discussion on our original motion?
I do have a question,
Yes, ma'am?
and for those of you that have presented the motion, how do you feel that this violates the spirit and intent of the ordinance? Because you said that they didn't meet that, so I want to know your reason.
I think it violates the letter of the law and certainly thereby violates the spirit and intent. The intent of the ordinance is to keep pole heights from being so high. It's an aesthetic, obviously this is an aesthetic direction that the city was trying to take when it passed the ordinance. And so by violating the letter of it by a significant amount, certainly, the ordinance clearly states prohibition. It doesn't even just give direction on the types of lighting, it actually prohibits the shoebox style lighting. And so this is clearly offending that spirit of historical looking lighting that Milton is trying to achieve. So, to me, obviously it's a subjective thing, but in my opinion, it violates not only the letter of the law, but it clearly offends the spirit of it as well.
Yeah, Marcia, to answer your question, I felt like our ordinance is fairly clear. And there's no room for ambiguity or gray area, and that this specific type of lighting in the pole heights is clearly a violation of that, so it's not a matter of the spirit, it's a clear violation in that regard.
If it was an inch too tall because of, a sighting error or something like that, it'd be a whole different story. But these are significantly higher than they're supposed to be, and they're clearly shoebox style lighting, which is what we're trying to move away from in the cities.
That's a good example. That's the scenario I run through in my mind. Things like that, where they're clearly not trying to, or have not paid attention to the letter of the law, but it's just an oversight, some kind of minor construction error, something along those lines. But I think this is a choice that was made absent information about what is permissible in the area. So.
And I'll make one other comment too. I know it's not in our language anymore, but our older language stated that actually it may still be that a strict enforcement of the ordinance would cause an unnecessary hardship. And my feeling in this case is that enforcement of the ordinance it is a necessary hardship. The purpose of the ordinance is clear, and we're not just being capricious about this. It's not an unnecessary hardship. I think it is a necessary hardship. That's why I voted to move to deny.
The thing I have a problem with is the exceptional situation or condition, which I feel like they fall into that, which is.
No, it's the property that has an exceptional situation.
It doesn't say the property.
This particular piece of property is the word.
But it also, when we wrote this, I remember the attorney discussing exceptional situations or conditions, gave us a little leadway. And if anybody needs a little leadway, I think this situation is a little leadway.
No, I think that's where the subjectivity comes in. Because I look at it as, due to size, shape, or topography of the property, and so I don't give them quite as much wiggle room as you might in this situation.
Mr. Turner?
It's definitely an unfortunate situation.
It is.
However, I think that our denial of this variance request gives this applicant very good ammunition to go back to Georgia Power with. Because they did not fulfill their contract.
They have a good case.
I don't know, because Walt and Angela looked at the contract, so I don't know if that was in there, if there's a clause or something. And, maybe, do we need to table this and let them have more discussion with Georgia Power and come back? I mean,
Mr.
that's a
Rico?
question.
Well, one of my problems is, and lighting is probably something as sensitive to any developer for a number of reasons. Of course, security is number one. Number two is just making sure that people feel safe walking in their environment. And lastly, when communities, or for that matter, businesses make a decision when they move into communities, they kind of look at the lighting. I know when the city chose this location, obviously they didn't choose this location based on their own criteria for lighting. They basically, the shoebox looks fine for me here, I guess we'll be okay with it. And they didn't go to the agency that runs this, or the owner, and say, we'd like to change these out to post-top lights or whatever is historical, and they went with the typical shoebox. I think you get to some issues where after a certain height, I'm not sure, 35 or 28, not many people can tell the difference. But I guess when I look at this, I see this as being a situation where everyone in this area has shoebox lights. To make this one area not have it, you make them stand out. Is that better or worse for the community? I'm not sure. Does that make the area be lit better, or does it make it look better? And I think conformity is something that a community likes to have. And I think in this situation, maybe sometimes as a business you like to stand out, but in this case, I don't think that's what we really want. We want them to kind of blend in with the community, would be my impression.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just make one comment. I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but if the community had wanted conformity as a consideration here, we would have included that in the ordinance. We would have put an exception in the ordinance for conformity. If a certain percentage of the surrounding area does not meet the ordinance, then this ordinance is not enforceable or something to that. But we didn't do that, and maybe we should have, and we can argue that all night long. But it's not there. So.
That's why we have a variance
That's why we
board.
have variance boards. Exactly.
That is true, but it is subjective.
Any other discussion? Okay. All those that would like to deny to allow light poles to exceed the maximum allowable pole height and to allow shoebox-style lighting fixtures as in petition numbers V09-017, please raise your right hand. All those that are against the denial of V09-017, please raise your right hand. Is there another motion on the table? Mr. Ricard?
I would like to make a motion that we approve variance V09-017 to allow the existing light poles to stay in place until such time that they are no longer, the lifespan has expired no greater than 12 years. And I believe this reason is granted because I feel like in keeping with that whole commercial area, it will be in keeping with that location. I don't believe that this is going to affect the health, safety, or welfare of the general public by making a change. And the applicant must also shall meet all outstanding building, site, and zoning requirements prior to the issuance of a permanent certificate of occupancy.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion?
Can we ask staff something?
Sure.
Would there be any benefit to trying to table this so they can go back to Georgia Power and see if there's some remediation that they can do based on the board putting a deferment on this?
Probably a question for the applicant.
Can you answer that? Is that right?
Yeah, the big thing for us is if we at least get permits for the people to start building out, and maybe because it's 30 days right on the table, nobody will have maybe none of them could get COs or something, but at least let them start. If there's any way at all that I don't know if y'all have the rights to do that or ability to, but we've been held up. They won't let us do a thing until this is resolved, and that's where it's been kind of sitting here, and we've been waiting for this date to come up. So if another 30 days out, I may lose people. I've already got people trying to figure out how to get out of leases right now, and it's taken me a lot of time, energy, and money and everything to get these people here and in the center. Everybody's in there. We have Metro PCS, and everybody's in there, and we've got one tenant ready that may take the rest of the center, which is 2 more bays. We're really close, but we're at the same thing. I've got some that are trying to leave on me. So, if there's any way, I don't know if y'all can do that. If there's some way I can figure out how to do that, I'd be fine with it.
Well, with this variance request being open, include them from moving ahead with the TCO request, the bonded light fixture.
We've already given them the option of a bond. We released the permits. But
If I can address that real quick. What we were given was we have to do that, and then each one of the tenants has to sign a letter saying that they know they're not going to get a permit without it.
right.
So, and that's the ones I've taken to the lawyers that are ready to go. I mean, that's 3 bays and a 8-bay building. So they don't want it hanging over their head. And I mean, if I put the bond up, it's either going to happen or it's not whenever y'all vote. I mean, next time. So, I mean, it's going to happen, but they want the bond and the letter, and it's a couple of tenants aren't really comfortable with it for whatever reason. So that's kind of what's put us in a place where if we do that, we're going to lose some of them for sure.
The purpose of us considering a deferral for 30 days is whether or not you feel you can get any traction with Georgia Power for remediation. So that's really the question. Do you feel you can get anywhere with Georgia Power if we defer this for 30 days?
I'm probably, if I have to do anything with Georgia Power, it's going to be legally, and it's going to be, they've kind of put it down that, we checked with them, and we did what we was okay to do, and, I mean, and I don't mean that flippantly, it's just, at the end of the day, I'm not a big enough, I mean, if I was cousins, maybe, I might have a little more pull, but I don't have it.
Mr. Chair, a follow-up. Have you paid them retainage?
I'm sorry?
Have you paid their retainage?
It's a contract, so it's paid monthly. The lights are paid. It's on if you look at it, it's a monthly payment, so it's not like I paid once. I'm on the hook for them, and if I don't pay it, then the lights turn off. I mean, you know what I'm saying? If I refuse to pay the bill, they just turn the lights off, and then I've got bigger problems then.
Any other discussion?
I mean, I'm not comfortable with approving it because it is, as you say, not that, but I also see their situation.
And I'm not sure I'm comfortable putting a 12-year thing on it. I'm not sure that's even, I don't know if that even, I mean, that's.
You could say something different. You could amend it and word it
Yeah,
different.
I mean, I don't see any, I mean, if you can let them put them up, I see no reason to tell them they gotta take them down in 12 years. I don't, yeah, we just have to move them in there, but that's the only comment that I have. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, for purposes of the motion, can you define 12 years from what date?
12 years would start from today.
Thank you.
And I have no problem removing the 12 years. I was trying to come up with something that I felt like when all the other groups in that whole area start changing out lights, that would seem like a reasonable time in which those lights would also get changed out to be the proper ones. And my feeling is that perhaps by that time, the new city council then will have a new style that is the new in thing for lighting. So,
That's fine.
So you're rescinding the
no,
12 years?
well, no, that's the reason I put in there. I wanted to make sure you understood why I put the 12 years in there. Was saying, I'm not saying leave it in there forever. I'm saying that, when 12 years or when the light expires, that they need to go with the proper lighting.
Any other discussion?
I'll just say that I think they would have to do that anyway. I think that's why they're here, because they're changing out lights and they're required to meet the ordinance. So if in 12 years they're changing out the lights, they'll have to meet the ordinance then or seek a variance. So I think the 12 years is kind of a moot point.
You want to remove it? That's fine.
Go ahead.
I think it clutters the motion. So
Okay, well, I'll make an amendment to remove the comment about 12 years. So keep it unrestricted that the lights can.
Any other
Yes,
discussion?
That needs to be said.
were you making were you moving?
Who's making an amendment?
Yeah, I made an amendment to.
I'll second that. All in favor of removing no greater than 12 years from the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Any other discussion before we vote on this motion? All those in favor of approving V09-017 to allow light poles to remain and to exceed the maximum allowable pole height. Number 2, to allow shoebox-style lighting fixtures. And number 3, the applicant shall also meet all outstanding building, site, and zoning requirements prior to issuance of the permanent certificate of occupancy. All in favor of this motion, please raise your right hand. All opposed, raise your right hand. Let it be known that it passed 4-3. Thank you.
Resolution number V09-018, 13560 Morris Road. Requested variances as follows. To allow precast concrete as the main material, more than 75% on the exterior walls of a non-residential building addition.
Excuse me just a second. I've got a procedure thing before I go any further. I meant to stop you before we started. My father worked for Phillips Corporation 40 years ago. And I don't think it's going to make a difference. He was very,
Yes, you have to leave.
but he only worked for them for about 3 years, so it's not like he spent a lifetime with them. But I wanted to at least make the board aware of that, but I don't believe it'll prejudice me at all. But I think I have to let you know, because if it is, I'll be glad to remove myself. But I wanted to bring it to the board's attention before the case is heard.
Dr. Gary, I think you should leave the room. Second.
It is actually your obligation or right to recuse yourself under the ethics ordinance. So.
Right, and I don't feel like I would be favorable one way or the other because of that relationship, but I feel like it's my obligation to mention that for no other reason than just to put it on the table.
Thank you.
Sorry, Angela.
Background. The site, 5304 Windward Parkway, is a 76,000 square foot office building located on 65.95 acres. The property is zoned O&I and is located in the Highway 9 overlay. The applicant, Aaron Thomas, is the Senior Director of the Customer Care Solutions Center, which will be housed in the building formerly owned by Altel. In order to maintain 100% connectivity to its customers, Philips plans to install an additional generator with a 30 by 30 mechanical screen wall enclosure at the northeast corner of the building. The area is currently grassed and is not visible from any adjoining right-of-ways. The building, built in 1999, is primarily precast concrete and glass. In April of 1999, Fulton County adopted the Highway 9 overlay, which includes the Morris Road area. The City of Milton adopted the overlay in December of 2006. These standards apply to new construction as well as additions, as in this case. Article 12G4E15 states that the exterior wall materials of all non-residential buildings shall consist of a minimum of 75% per vertical wall plane of the following: brick or natural stone. Section E16 states that accent building materials for all non-residential buildings are limited to a maximum of 25% brick, tile, non-reflective glass, natural stone with weathered, polished, or fluted face finish, textured traditional cement stucco, architectural lath systems, architectural either precast or tilt-up concrete, fluted or with exposed aggregate finish, or hardy plank. The applicant has requested the variance so that the addition can be constructed in the same materials that the original building is finished in, precast concrete. Focus meeting was held by staff on January 4th, 2009, at which the following comments were provided. Building plan review, site plan review, arborist, and DOT stormwater all had no issues. Standards for consideration. The applicant has indicated a justification for variance based on the following factors. Relief, if granted, will not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance. B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant. C, relief, if granted, would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good and surrounding properties. And D, that the public safety, health, and welfare are secured and that substantial justice is done. The applicant states, the building owner and Phillips would like to have the addition of this screen wall not alter the physical appearance of the building. We feel strongly that the best solution to address the consistency of the physical exterior appearance is to match the precast concrete panel material of the adjoining building. Recommended conditions. Should the board choose to approve this application, staff recommends the following conditions. Staff has no conditions at this time, and this concludes staff presentation.
Do the board members have any questions for staff at this time? Yes, sir.
Chair, a quick question for Angela. I have to admit, at the beginning, when you kicked off the background, I missed it. I noticed there was a typo, though. The site address reference is 5303 Humber Parkway, and it should be
Cut and paste.
13560 Morris. Just
All right,
wanted to
yes.
acknowledge. That's all I have.
Anyone else have any questions for staff? Would the applicant please step forward and present? And if you would give us your name and address, we'd appreciate it, sir.
My name is Erwin Thomas. I'm a senior director at Philips Healthcare, 13560 Morris Road. Here, I guess the mailing address is Alpharetta, but in the town of Milton. So we just relocated from the perimeter area. If you remember the Philips building down there, we moved up to the building on 13560 Morris Road. We are the diagnostic engineering and application support for all of North America and South America. We take 80,000 customer calls a day, or excuse me, not a day, a month, about 2,500 calls a day. Our engineers and clinicians work with physicians and those people that have patients on the table. So we supply diagnostic imaging and patient monitoring equipment for hospitals throughout this country. So many of you probably had experience with some of our products at one time or another, most times, unfortunately. So with that, we have this variance. We need to put a generator in to support the diagnostic imaging center so that we have 24/7 support, because if your loved one is on the table, you want to make sure that we have power so that we can do the remote diagnostics as required and hopefully bring those pieces of equipment back up. So with that, this variance is specifically to match the exterior of the building, to enclose that generator in the back of the building, and it would be of the same composite material that is there. I'll be open for any questions that you might have.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Were you or your architect or GC able to contact the architect or GC on the initial project, or their precast manufacturer?
You want to handle it?
We haven't tried to do that, but our contractor is matching the material.
So it's a visual match? You don't have anything like a plan?
Ma'am, would you please come up and
And I know there's a lot of
I'm sorry.
variability in precast panels.
We have yet to receive precast panel shop drawings. We're waiting on those now, and we're also waiting on sample materials. But we have provided these renderings. I don't know if you guys have copies of these. Okay. So the contractor is trying to match that as closely as possible right now and submit those to us for review.
So you don't have any plans or specs from the previous project?
Of the building, I would have to check that. We do have some building drawings,
Okay.
but it's mostly sectional drawings. I think we might have that called out maybe in those drawings. I'm not sure. Yeah, and we don't have the actual specifications, but we have the base building drawings, if you will.
Okay. And the original construction was
1991? 91, I think.
91, okay, so that's quite a bit of
Yeah.
aging.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only concern I have. I mean, it seems like a
Matching.
pretty good situation. It's going to, for all intents and purposes, match the surrounding area and not be an eyesore, not offend the spirit of the ordinance. But that's the only question I had is how feasible is it to try and match this far removed from the initial contract?
Mm-hmm.
before we go on, ma'am, will you please give us your name and address?
I'm Gail Malone. I'm with Gensler Architects, and our address is 101 Marietta Street, Atlanta, Georgia, 30303. And Rick is with Gensler as well. So.
And if you'll give us your name and address, sir.
I'm Rick Sellers, and I'm an architect with Gensler at the same address, 101 Marietta Street, Atlanta. We do a fair number of precast buildings, and we have done additions in the past. What we'd normally do is ask the precast manufacturer to give us a variety of samples that we could bring to the site and let the owner see, let the contractor see, and we compare those samples. And sometimes it may be 3 or 4 samples to get the right finish, the right texture, and the right sand mixture that usually creates the color that matches what's existing.
Okay.
So we'd go through that exercise to make sure we get it as close as we physically can.
I see there's a louver on this as well.
Louver
Does
on
that
the
match
backside.
anything on the existing
That will match the existing louvers, which are on another side, which we don't have photographs of. But yes, we try to match those and finish as well.
Mr. Rico?
Have you got any letters from any of your adjoining neighbors saying that they have a problem with this or that they're in favor of your variance?
We really don't have any neighbors. What's the closest? He's the landlord. What's the closest building? We're pretty isolated, but.
Okay. And then second question is, how far exactly are you away from the street, or for that matter, I mean, I kind of went back there trying to figure out how to even see this. I guess, maybe if I looked real hard on 400, but from Morris Road, everywhere else, it looks like it's a good ways off.
It's a good ways off.
I don't think you can see it
You
physically.
can't see it physically. You would have to turn into what's the street that turned Morris Road?
Yeah.
Not Morris, but
Go ahead.
you go down Morris and into the
main.
main drive that loops you around to the building, so you can't see it from the.
Go ahead, Ethan.
Yeah, my name is Ian Hughes, and I'm with Jones Lang LaSalle. We represent the owner of the building. I'm also the general manager of the building. My address is 13650 Morris Road, Alpharetta, Georgia. We have not received any comment from the neighbors. The notice of the variance that it has been posted, obviously, on Morris Road, and we've had no comment from anyone. Also, with regard to where this is located, it's on the very north side of the building. The nearest anything is 400. It's at least a quarter of a mile from Morris Road. And then on the back side, there's a road, I don't know the name of it, but it goes back to an apartment complex that is on the very north side of that road. There's a buffer of trees there. And really, I'm hard-pressed to see the Verizon sign from 400 now that's on the top of the building, let alone the structure that's only going to be one story off the ground.
Any other questions? Since there's no public comment, we'll close public comment. You have a rebuttal or closing statement you'd like to make?
I am always willing to make a statement. No,
You didn't know Mr. Recook's grandfather.
yeah, I know, I didn't.
Okay, I just
No,
wanted
no.
to make sure.
So, no, we just to let you know, and we're very excited to be here. We moved 550 people here up to this area. We had a dramatic impact on the community. We have training centers here, so it gives us the opportunity to bring in a lot of people from around the surrounding area. And the vendors and hotels and motels in the area have been very gracious and really excited about us coming. So with that, we hope that you'll approve this variance.
Welcome to Melbourne.
Yeah, we're glad to have you here.
Any additional questions for staff? I'd like to open the floor for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve petition number B09-018, based on the based on the fact that it meets all standards for consideration that are being requested.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving V09-018 to allow precast concrete as the main material more than 75% on the exterior walls of a non-residential building addition as it meets all standards for the city of Milton, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, let know that it passed unanimously. Thank you all very much.
Good luck. And I
Welcome
still have
to
a
Milton.
shortwave radio from Philips that still works after 42 years.
Angela, I assume
a
that we
good one.
did defer V09-019 to February?
Yes, and we're going to, since it's on the agenda and it's been advertised, staff would like to formally request that this be advertised, be deferred until the February meeting.
And we will go back to our third Tuesday for February, correct?
I'll make a motion to defer B09-019.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Any other business?
Yes.
I'd like to defer to my colleague on this one, and then I'll explain what I remember about this.
Back in May, on the sign ordinance, variance considerations that we wanted changed, we requested changing minimum letter size to maximum, and John pointed that out.
It's a semantic thing.
So we
You wanna
need
take
that
a
to
look? That's the proposed language.
go through the motion, I guess.
So are you saying you want to make a motion that that gets changed to properly reflect?
We already did make that motion. It just has to go to council now. Attorney and council. Because the minimum would be a problem. So we just want to correct that. And it kind of got lost when all that was going on. That was a good call, John. I think we talked about it. Yeah.
And I'm reviewing looks like the May agenda or the May meeting minutes, that the appropriate procedure for this board is to make a recommendation to the city council to adopt or to amend the ordinance. I don't recall if that has been done. If not, then that would be appropriate for the board to do.
We could change
We
that.
did,
Can we not change our
we did
bylaws?
both.
The wording of our bylaws?
We were trying to get it in at the same time when they did all the other.
I'm sorry, this is an amendment to
This is
the
an
bylaws?
amendment to our bylaws, I believe, isn't it? Get it presented in writing, it has to be so long
Yeah,
before.
that is part of the bylaw.
Well, it's Article 22,
Might
so
be
I
restating
think,
the ordinance as well.
yeah, I think we still have to take it back to the council.
Do you?
I know if it's substantial, like when we changed the wording of the considerations, it had to go back to council, so I guess since it's part of that section, we probably.
Right, it's Article 22.
We just don't want
of the
any
ordinance.
future
Yeah, ambiguity.
legal problems
Yeah,
for the city.
yeah, 'cause it should have been maximum, but it was just a.
Yeah.
It also appears in the sign ordinance as well. I don't have the bylaw, so we'll
Oh, really?
need to address it.
Yeah.
It's written that way in the sign ordinance?
The sign ordinance leads relief only to the sign ordinance may be granted where existing foliage or structures bring about a hardship whereby a sign meeting minimum letter size, square footage, and height requirements have to be read from the joining public road.
So what's the procedure then to bring this to council?
If you will,
Do we approve this proposed change as a board and then send it forward?
you can approve it as a change to your bylaws. It still needs to, for purposes of applying to throughout the city, change to the ordinance. I would ask you move for approval to submit it to the board, approve the submission to the city council with a recommendation that they amend the ordinance as been approved.
Recommendation to the city council to amend
Do we have to make a presentation to council, or will staff take care of that? Thank you.
Depends how badly you want.
We're just changing one word,
Yeah, I think
so.
it's just for clarity, it's not
Yeah.
really
Not
a
even really a word.
Yeah.
change of meaning.
Do we make a motion tonight to do this, or do we have to wait 30 days to make a motion?
And we've already waited.
I think it was already done, that's what you're saying.
The bylaws say that we have to, it has to be presented to change the bylaws, the new wording has to be presented in writing, and then there has to be a period of so many days, and I don't remember if that was 2 weeks or 30 days before we could vote on it, but we're really not voting on the change, it's a resolution that this change be brought to council, because we're really requesting them to make the change, so. I
Since
don't
ours
really
mirrors theirs.
Really have anything to vote on, other than maybe a resolution to.
The change was already voted on in May, is that right?
Right.
Okay, so the change has been approved, and now we would vote to move it forward to
Take it to
council for their
council.
consideration.
Okay, so yeah, it's more of a resolution than.
Why don't you make that motion?
Okay, I move that we present our proposed change to variance consideration as a part of our bylaws to read in section 11D, relief to the sign ordinance may only be granted where existing foliage or structures bring about a hardship whereby a sign meeting maximum letter size, square footage, and height requirements cannot be read from an adjoining public road.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? Passed unanimously.
Mayor, for clarity, are you requesting an amendment to the ethics ordinance? Or requesting the council consider?
Sign ordinance.
Sign or,
What is that, the sign ordinance, correct?
Correct.
That is section 22.3.1.1 of the sign ordinance.
So we need to change what his motion was, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't know if you're going through two steps.
Okay.
Can you repeat those numbers?
22.3.1.1 sign variance consideration.
Angela, could you clarify, so we have changed our bylaws, is the official golden copy of the bylaws worded with the maximum now?
Honestly, don't remember.
I did miss a meeting back in there, I may have missed it, but I just didn't remember us actually
Yeah, you
going
weren't-
through the process of voting for it.
It says here you were not present for this meeting, so.
I knew I missed one back in the April, May timeframe.
So I guess what we're saying is, can you update our bylaws to reflect
is
that?
that 22? Is that-
Our bylaws and the sign ordinance.
Taking care of the bylaws, and now you have the recommendation to the council for the sign ordinance. I will take care of them. I will update the bylaws.
Thank you. We appreciate all your work, Angela.
Thank you.
Any
And
other-
I just want to say, I've got a card you want to sign, if you don't mind, for Sandy.
Aw.
Any other
I did
business?
talk to Sandy today. She said to tell everyone hello, and she misses everyone.
Except for me.
Except for Walt. She said that, too.
Any other business before we adjourn? I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand.
Yes.
Opposed?
I'm going to watch the president tonight.
Nancy, welcome.